there, friends and sane persons. I'm Kyle, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10 list, a board game topic, something else that happens to be on my mind, whatever I happen to be thinking about. And this week, we're back for more. So last week was the board game cruise, the Dice Tower cruise. It was fantastic. Had a great time. I'll probably share some more thoughts on that maybe next time. But this week, I wanted to sort of continue kind of some thoughts that I've been having before. Last time we did talk about a game called Moon. And the week before, we talked about drafting games. And this week, I want to talk about and write games. So a while ago, I don't remember what the first one was, but at some point, this concept of a roll and write game came out. This was a game where you typically rolled some dice, and then you had a sheet, and you would mark it off and mark some sort of thing off. And Yahtzee technically, I guess, is one. There was a game called Dice Stars that came out early on. There was another one called St. Malo. A couple of sort of early games in the genre, and then it went into a boom. I mean, it was like mushrooms popping up after a rainstorm, or frozen yogurt places, where all of a sudden everyone just had these roll and write games. Ganz schön clever was one that came out and really made a splash, and it kind of spurred on even more games. And these are just games that are generally small, generally light, usually pretty easy to play. Great travel games because you really take everything that you need with you in a box, and all you really have to do is mark off some boxes and roll some dice. Then this sort of concept of flip and write came out, where instead of rolling dice, now we are flipping cards, and it's just sort of become a really big thing lately, and I've enjoyed them. And anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Not much more than that. We'll go through 10 great ones. These are the 10 favorites at the moment I made the list. I could try a new one tomorrow, and it might make the list. Who knows? But without much more back and forth on this, let's go to my number 10. All right, my number 10 is a game that came out I guess it was 2019. I know that because I'm looking. This is a game. It was, I guess, early on in the roll and write craze. At least I think so. It's a game called On Tour. So On Tour, let me see if I can't get this open here. Present, share screen. There we go. On Tour is a game where you are essentially you're a band and you are making a tour of the United States. And so what you're going to do is you'll flip over, I believe it is 3 cards, and you'll roll a die. And the cards are going to show, as you can sort of see them there in the middle. They will correspond to some areas of the United States. There's sort of 6 regions. North, then it's kind of divided into north, south, and central, west, and east. And you're going to start by drawing, and you're going to roll these 2 dice, and the 2 dice will make a 10-digit or a 2-digit number. Here you can kind of see I guess, stripped down version of it. And so you're then going to write that number in one of the cards that's out there. And what you're ultimately trying to do is, at the end of the game, you want to be able to make as long a route as possible, such that you're only ever increasing in value. So ideally you'd want a 0-1 next to a 0-2, next to a 0-3, next to a 0-4. If ever you write, each card has, or most of the cards have, a city-specific state on them. And if ever you write the exact number in there, you get to circle it, and it's worth extra points if you go through there. You're just trying to make the longest route possible, filling, not ever going back on yourself. Now, there are some stars. There's situations where you could get a star, and the star kind of lets you restart your counter. So you could connect anything to a star and a star to anything. So if you find yourself in a tough spot, well, hopefully you get a star that you can kind of make it from there. It's a really interesting game. It's not like any of the others, just because what you're really doing is building a path, not necessarily trying to, cross stuff off and score points, but a really fascinating game, one I really enjoy, that is on tour. Let's now talk about my number. Oops, I guess I got to take on tour off. My number 9. My number 9 is another sort of early entry. Now, this one's not so much a roll and write, it's definitely the flip and write genre, and that is Welcome To. Now, Welcome To has a variety of different versions of it. There was Welcome to Your Perfect Home or something like that. There was Welcome to New Vegas. And then my favorite of the family is Welcome to the Moon. If I can get this open here. Welcome to the Moon. So in Welcome to the Moon, it's actually 8 different games in one box, and you're playing through a campaign where things will unlock. But in its sort of core version, you're flipping over cards, and you're going to be using the cards for their special ability and for their number, and you're really just trying to fill in as many areas as possible in this rocket ship. And depending on, see, for example, if it's green, it can go into this row. And then you're trying to fill them in from left to right, from lowest value to highest value. And when you fill in certain sections, you get different bonuses. But with Welcome to the Moon, it then goes through, you'll flip over the thing. And if I can find it, you'll play another scenario where instead of, there you can see them all, like this one here, now you're trying to make ever increasing numbers, but you're going from Earth to the moon, and you'll see that there are way too many numbers, and that's because eventually you'll be able to sort of subdivide these sections and start numbers over. And so you're trying to fill in these sections, but you don't quite even know what they are yet. And that's kind of the most akin to base Welcome To, sort of Welcome to Your New Home, is you have these streets and you're filling them in. Whichever way you slice it, though, Welcome To is a fantastic sort of spin on this game. It gives you a lot of control, a lot of flexibility. It plays well solo. It plays well with others. It's just a lot to love about any of the Welcome Tos. New Vegas was probably the weakest. And I don't know if it's just because it was a little too complicated. Maybe that's what it was. If you went to Welcome to Your Dream Home, you will find, let's see, if we go to this one here, you'll find that there were a bunch of expansions for it as well that let you sort of keep changing things. Anyway, I'm talking too long about this game, but it's a lot of fun. It's one of the best of its genre. That's Welcome To. My next one, my number 8, is the game that has the most expansions of all of the roll and writes, and that is Rolling Realms. So this is a game by Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. The game kind of came out during the pandemic, and he just sort of developed it and would play with it with people online. But basically what happens is each of the Stonemaier Games catalog has its own sort of little world, and you'll be picking 3 of them at a time and playing through them. You're going to roll 2 dice, and you're going to use the dice for 2 different cards. Each card has sort of a different way that it's scoring, a different kind of puzzle you're trying to unpick. And then after you play, I guess it's 9 rounds, then you'll score and you wipe everything out except, of course, your points. And then you'll go again and again. And that's kind of how the game works. Now, it started out with just these, the Stonemaier Games catalog, but since then, it has gotten so many expansions. There's, lots of games that are unrelated to Stonemaier Games have gotten their own little expansions and windows into this world. Look, they don't follow the game thematically all that much, but it's sort of a nod to sort of what the game is trying to accomplish. I do hope this comes out with a big box. I thought I saw something about that eventually coming out. But it's a very interesting game, a lot of variability just because, you've got so many different decks, so many different realms to roll through that it's just going to keep getting more and more. And it's a great sort of game to play with others because it's very simultaneous, very enjoyable. That is my number 8, Rolling Realms. My number 7. My number 7 is probably the weirdest of the roll and write games, and that's because rather than everyone having their own sheet, in this game you sort of use a common board and you're drawing lines and stuff on it. That is the Japanese game Let's Make a Bus Route. So in Let's Make a Bus Route, like I said, you're making a bus route. This game is from Sashi and Sashi, Japanese company. And you just have this one little tiny deck of cards. It's going to be just a few rounds after you've played all these cards. It will tell you, what kind of color you're doing, and each player's color action might be a little bit different. So my red action might be making sort of 2 straight lines, or it might be making 1 line, or it might be a curve. And then there's a variety of bonuses that you can manipulate and try and accomplish. For example, like you can see here, you can use you can spend a bonus in order to change what you're doing. And ultimately, you're trying not to go on routes that other people have gone on because that causes traffic. Traffic's worth negative points. And you're trying to pick up people, for example, as you go. If you make it through a stoplight, you can go extra spaces. If you pick up this student, well, eventually you're going to find your way to the university, and then all the students that you have will get off and they'll score you bonus points. And you're trying to accomplish these different goals as well. You're trying to connect 2 points. There's a lot going on, but interestingly, you're just sort of all doing it together. And because you're all on the same board, you're going to interact in ways that you often don't find in a roll and write game. That's why this one's my number 7. Let's Make a Bus Route. Let's go on now to my number 6. My number 6 is probably the most thematic of the roll and writes. And it looks like I've written the name down wrong. Hold on, let me. I've got it. Hold on, let me. How is it spelled here? It's a weird name. Oh, it's Fourcade. There we go. I had arcade. You got to be careful. That game is Super Skill Pinball Fourcade. It's honestly not the best name. Just because that doesn't really say anything. But what this does is it gives you 4 different pinball machines that you're going to be going through. And you're going to keep rolling dice, and you can kind of try and adjust the dice by tilting the machine. And every roll, the ball is going to move down, and it's going to hit a new area. And then when you fill up an area, you're going to get bonuses that you can then try and trigger something special. You have bumpers that you can use, and so if you can have it hit the bumper, well, then you can send it back up to certain areas. You can send it up this track here. You'll get points based upon how high it goes. And it's a simultaneous game. So you roll the dice and everybody writes. And then you roll the dice and everybody writes. And it just sort of really captures the pinball theme. There's a bunch of different expansions for this. There's a lot of them. There's a Star Trek set. There's a Christmas set. There's just the base set and then an extra set. It's just a lot going on here. It is probably the longest of the roll and write games, and it can be one where if depending on how you're doing, you might finish before someone else and then not have anything to do for a little while. And that's why it's a great solo game, because in solo you just keep going, and when you're done, you're done. I'm a lot better at this than I am at regular pinball. That does not say much, though, because I'm not very good at regular pinball. This is a fantastic game, a great roll and write where you're actually rolling and writing. It's really quite thematic and a lot of fun. Let's go on to number 5. My number 5 is the newest roll and write game on the list. It's one I discovered just a couple of weeks ago. It is a fantastic Western-themed roll and write, and that one is called Flip Town. So in Flip Town, you have it's got this sort of card selection mechanism. Someone's going to flip over 3 cards every round, and everyone is going to choose one card to go into their poker hand. So you'll write it down, and it's just sort of a standard poker deck. And then one card for its suit and one card for its value. And the suit is going to tell you where you go, and the value tells you what you do there. And there's a variety of different things you can do. You can kind of rob people in the Badlands, and if you do that, you become wanted, which could cause you penalties later unless you find a way to mitigate them. You can go along this trail and just get bonuses. The faster you move, the better the bonuses, but the fewer you'll get. There's this mine that you're going to sort of dig your way down and try and score things. And then there's this town, and in the town, you're just going to get different bonuses that can either boost other actions or can help you, get points, whatever it may be. There's not really any surprises in the game. Everyone's playing off the same 3 cards, although you can play different versions. And then you're going to have this poker hand that you're not really competing with each other unless you play a variant. And ultimately trying to get bonuses based upon making the best poker hand you can. So that's going to inform your decisions. But really, it's just flip 3 cards. Everyone does something. Flip 3 more when you play through 5. There's this brief sort of reset phase where you'll see what the sheriff arrests. And it's a great game. It really works very well. It works well solo. It works well with others. It's very simultaneous and delightful and a lot of fun. That is Flip Town. Let's go on to my number 4. My number 4 is a game that I've talked about here on Wednesday Whimsy before. This is probably the biggest roll and write game. It is meant to capture a galactic empire building game called Twilight Imperium, and this game is, of course, Twilight Inscription. So in Twilight Inscription, there's just a lot going on here, right? There are dice, there are cards. You've got every round. You've got these 4 boards, and I can't even. Well, it's showing them all separately. I can't seem to find a picture where they're all put together. But you're going to pick a board. There you are. You're going to pick a board and do something on that board. And so each of the boards is going to behave differently. And you're working on your economy. You're working on attacking other people. You're working on your technology. There's a lot of things going on here. This is a game that is not simple by any means. It's one of the more complicated roll and write games, but it's really interesting. And it's great solo. It's great with others. I mean, that's sort of a hallmark of most roll and writes, is that they work, well in both contexts. This is just a fascinating game that gives you this feel of space exploration, but, in about an hour-ish rather than taking all day. So a great game. I don't really like the game that it's based on, Twilight Imperium, but this Twilight Inscription is fantastic. And go back and watch my episode of Wednesday Whimsy on it if you want more information. That's Twilight Inscription, my number 4. Let's go on now to my number 3. My number 3 is possibly my most played roll and write game. It is so simple and so delightful. This is a game called Trails of Tucana. Let's see if I can find my banner here. There you go. Trails of Tucana. In Trails of Tucana, you have this board, and you'll see what it looks like here. And you're trying to draw lines to connect different things. Every round, someone will flip over 2 cards, and you have to draw a line connecting those 2 terrains. Your goal ultimately is to connect all the things to all the things. And by building this sort of network, you're able to do that more efficiently. And that's really it. And there's a small expansion where you have a fairy that's, gives you other things to try and do. But on the whole, even the base game is fantastic. It's fast. It's simultaneous. It's just a really good game, and one that I love to travel with if I'm going with other people because it's so fun to play. You can play it. I mean, I've played it sitting in a waiting area at an airport just on somebody's lap, right? It was where we get the cards and everybody just drew. It's a great game. My number 3, Trails of Tucana. Let's go on to my number 2. All right, my number 2 is another one I've played a whole bunch. And this is perhaps the best multiplayer roll and write. I wish I could figure out how to spell it. There we go. I have it here in my banner as well. This is cartographers. So cartographers, you are drawing a map. And that's really, I mean, obviously that's what the name means, right? But what you're doing is you're trying to, so let me put this up here. You're trying to fill in this map in a way that's going to score. And there are 4 different scorings, and they're going to happen. Now, this person's a much better artist than I am. But you're going to be scoring, you'll score everything twice, and they'll come out in different orders. And so you're trying to draw your map in a way that scores everything as the best you possibly can. Occasionally, monsters will show up, and when a monster shows up, you pass your sheet to another player. They draw the monster for you, and then you get it back, and you have to deal with that monster. The monsters are, you deal with it by surrounding it. There's a small expansion that's, I guess it's not a small expansion, but there's the cartographer's heroes that allows you another way to deal with the monsters. But basically, everyone's drawing the same sheet at the same time. And it's really a great game. Now you can see everybody here is a great artist. I do the bare minimum here. I do have a set with colored pencils though, so that's nice. It's not the one I travel with, obviously, because you travel with a small box. But the colored pencils let you make everything nice too. You can see this is something that looks like it's in Dutch. It's just a great game. It's always very satisfying. Everyone has a good time with it. This is my number 2, Cartographers. So that leaves just one game for my number 1. And where I said that my number 2 game is the best one to play with other people, my number 1 is a game that I almost only play solo these days. That's just because of how much is going on in it. And that is Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall. Now, look, I will gladly play it with somebody who knows how, but it's a game where everyone really has to monitor themselves. You're going to select a card, and the card's going to give you draw 2 cards. One card will give you a scoring bonus, and the other card will give you some resources. And then you're just going to go to town, right? You take this sheet, and you're going to mark stuff off. So I can spend I can spend a brick to cross this off. That gives me a yellow person. Yellow people are useful over here. I cross this guy off. It gives me a blue person. And so you're constantly just spending the resources, trying to fill in these boxes. There's so many different ways to sort of score and deal with stuff over here. It's not really possible to do everything. You got to pick 1 or 2 things and focus on them. And that lets each game be different. Ultimately, your goal is to get points. Your points are going to be, whenever you cross off these particular symbols here on the left, those are going to get you points. And you'll see who has the most at the end of the game. There's the small kind of random phase where you'll flip over some cards and be attacked, and you're trying to have the best defense up here. If you can't defend it, then you take a shame or something. I'm sure it has a time. Does it say? Wait, I'm sure it has a disdain. That's what it's called. A disdain. And you can also give somebody a bonus in the bathhouse to get rid of your disdain, which thematically is a little troubling. But other than that, it's just, I mean, look, the theme it isn't really here. It's just doing stuff. But the stuff you're doing is fun, and you feel like you're doing a lot in the game. And you're trying to make the most of all these resources. This is a game I gladly travel with because it's a great one just to play, right? You get these 2 sheets, you play it. People are wondering what in the world you're doing, but you're just sort of interacting with yourself, and eventually you're going to have points, and you kind of compare them to a table. There's also a small campaign way to play that I believe was on their website. That's also very interesting. I can't make it past the first couple of scenarios, though, because I'm terrible at this game, but I always have a great time at it. And it's combo after combo after combo. And it's the best roll and write game or flip and write game that there is out there. So that is, I forgot to put my banner up. That is my number 1, Hadrian's Wall. And with that, we're done, right? We've talked about 10 games in 25 minutes. That's a little longer than I wanted it to be, but, I get excited about things. Anyway, I'll be back next week with another topic. I might be talking about the cruise. I might talk about something else. We'll see what I feel like. Until then, I'm going to wish you safe travels, hopefully with a roll and write game, and courage when you need it. And I will see you back next time for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.